For me, disciplining myself means more freedom. And the less you discipline yourself, you're going to be doing things you don't want to do, working for people you don't want to work for, wearing clothes you don't want to wear, and living a life that you don't want to live. And so, you see me. Look. Samurai Soul,
Hey, yo.
Komodo Gang,
Hey, yo.
and all you people out there living your life. Welcome to Wukong. And today we're going to talk about discipline. Discipline! Discipline is a vital topic for us to cover here on this channel, because here on Wukong's world, we're all about empowering the samurai souls out there to be boundless, to be ubiquitous, to be limitless. And that is all about freedom. And what better way to explore this concept of freedom than through the medium of discipline? So, if we ask our good friends on Google, they will tell us something like, discipline is the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. I'm not liking any of these, to be honest, man. Why is it the first one coming up as in reference to someone catching a whooping, or you having to dish out a whooping or something like that? I don't know. These definitions for the most part are dori bori. Let's look up some other words that I think would really give us a more solid definition and understanding of the word discipline. One of my favorite ways to look at the word discipline is to look at the root words and really decipher what it could mean. Now, shout outs to my good friend John Lavania, the legend. He brought this definition to my awareness. He was talking about the word decidere, which is a French word that basically means to cut, right? If we look it up, decidere. This one's my favorite, from the old French decidere. Forgive my accent, right? But from the Latin decidere, to cut off, to decide, to cut, essentially. And on this channel, we are samurai of the soul. So, I like this definition a lot more if we factor it in to the other definitions we got for discipline. It means to essentially burn the boats, to cut off all other options, to cut off any other considerations, right? It is to be decisive, to cut off all other options and be unified in the direction that you're going, instead of being pulled by many other threads simultaneously. Another word, speaking of decide, while we look that one up on Google right here, it means to make a choice from a number of alternatives. What better way to be decisive than to cut off those other alternatives? And that's essentially what it means. If we look up the word which is close to discipline, disciple, right here, our friends on Google will tell us about Jesus. Happy Easter recently, because it was Easter recently. If you celebrate it. But it says to be a follower or a student of a teacher, leader, or philosopher. And I'm going to add this one in there, or philosophy, right? To follow a certain philosophy as if it were your Jesus, as if it was your savior, as if it was going to save you, because really implementing discipline in your life does result in you being saved from being lorded over. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm gonna go ahead and reference my guy, the legendary Eric Thomas, who said something, and I'm going to paraphrase it here, but he said, I don't want a life where something else is controlling me. I don't want nothing else controlling me but me. So I gotta put myself under extreme discipline to make sure I'm free. I want freedom. For me, disciplining myself means more freedom. And the less you discipline yourself, the more likely it'll be that you'll wind up stuck later in life in a position or in positions where you're bound to a certain job or life situation that you simply can't get out of due to the fact that you played around too much in your youth, which would be what he spoke to was in like being in your like early 20s. To play around too much in your early 20s means that by the time you reach your early 40s, you're going to be doing things you don't want to do, working for people you don't want to work for, wearing clothes you don't want to wear, and living a life that you don't want to live. And so with that being said, when you are looking for freedom, you're looking for salvation from suffering, all right? That's what we're looking for as samurai of the soul, as soul samurai. So when you're looking for salvation from suffering, which the Buddhists defined as the unquenched or unfulfilled desire, right? To suffer is to be filled with desires unfulfilled, right? To be in a financial situation that has you sleeping in the mystery van with a can full of beans and a pocket full of dreams, you're gonna be suffering, wishing that things were different, right? And so when you don't have something that you follow as your own personal Jesus, as your own personal savior, as your own personal whatever, if you don't have something to follow like that, then someone else is going to give you something to follow, or you're going to be stuck in a situation where you can't do nothing but that. And if it's not your personal Jesus, if you don't have a philosophy, then in life, prepare to get whooped. That's where the punishment part of discipline comes in. You get disciplined for not being disciplined. And so, off rip, you better get yourself a nice big sip of that discipline drip, homeboy. Right? So, with that being said, we're gonna talk to my mentor, or one of my mentors, the legendary Jim Rohn, just about this very subject, and see if we can come to a deeper, more solidified understanding of discipline. Okay? Yeah.
Now, once I understood this, here's the formula for failure: errors in judgment, being lax about developing your own personal philosophy. I'm telling you, it's called accumulated disaster. It doesn't matter whether it's your health or your bank account. Guy's got an empty bank account, probably has high cholesterol. Why? Over the last 6 years, he never paid attention to either one. And it doesn't matter whether it's a dollar, whether it's your money, or whether it's your cholesterol count. All you got to do is commit the errors, and just because disaster doesn't fall on you at the end of the first day that you don't eat an apple. You say, well, I didn't eat an apple today, and tonight I'm not ill. Well, you got to be brighter than that. Someday you got to leave first grade. The reason we make those first grade desks so small so they won't fit at age 25. I mean, right? You don't belong here anymore. Come on. Now let me give you the secret to success. The formula for failure: a few errors in judgment repeated every day for 1 month starts the weakness, starts the disaster process. You can imagine what happens in 6 years. Now here's the formula for success: a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And you've started a whole new process called a whole new life. A few simple disciplines practiced every day. And if you decide today to go for the apple instead of the Hershey bar, I'm telling you, you have begun the process of turning your life around. And if you keep up that process, not only with your health habits, but with your money habits and with your communication habits, with your sales habits and management habits and every other habit that you got, if you'll start that process, eliminate the errors and replace it with disciplines practiced, I'm telling you, you can start this process of life change immediately. After today, you don't ever have to be the same again. Only by choice. You don't have to walk out of here the same as you walked in today. Only by choice. You can start a whole new process. And you say, well, Mr. Rohn, is it that simple? Yes, it's that simple. Where else would you start but with an apple? You don't have to start with something staggering. What if you should be walking around the block for your good health and you don't? What'll that do in 6 years? I'm telling you, the word is disaster. You could and you should and you don't. Here's an even stronger word. You won't. I mean, don't might mean you're careless. Won't probably means you're stubborn. And either one's called disaster. Could, should, don't. I'm telling you, that's why at the end of 5 years, 6 years, I found myself with pennies in my pocket, nothing in the bank, creditors falling. Could, should, won't. Could, should, don't is called disaster. Now, how do you change all that? The next 6 years, I got rich. The next 6 years, I became a millionaire. By the time I'm 31, I'm a millionaire. How about that? You say, well, Mr. Rohn, what happened? Well, strangely enough, during that second 6 years of my economic life, the government was about the same. I'm telling you, taxes were about the same. My negative relatives were the same. I'm telling you, the economy was about the same, and prices were about the same, and everything else was about the same. Circumstances were about the same. Then how come I got rich? How come I totally changed my life? I was not the same. Somebody says, well, what did you go to work on to do all that? I started with my philosophy. I started amending my errors by doing some better thinking, changing my mind, coming up with ideas that I didn't have before I met my teacher. And once that whole process started for me, I'm telling you, I changed my whole life. Within a 6-year period, I was never the same. And I've kept up that process all these years. One of the reasons why I'm here is to continue my craft. I don't want the day to come someday somebody says, you should have heard Jim Rohn 10 years ago when he was really terrific. Guess what I want people to say? I heard him 10 years ago, but you should hear him now. I'm telling you, the man works on his craft. I'm telling you, the man's done some extra reading. I'm telling you, the man doesn't miss a trick. I'm telling you, he's worked hard on himself. That's why he's able to deliver like he does. The same thing can happen for you as a teenager. It can happen to you as a mother, as a father, as a business person, as a salesperson, running a business. Doesn't matter. Management, wherever you find yourself. This is the process called personal change. And what I say to start with is, start with your own philosophy. Your philosophy is going to determine whether or not you go for the disciplines or continue the errors that's called potential disaster. And everybody has it within their power. Well, it was so happy for me to find out at age 25, Mr. Shove said, Mr. Rohn, you don't have to change countries. But you do have to change philosophy. And if you'll change philosophy, not country, you can turn around your income, you can turn around your bank account, you can turn around your skills, you can become capable, powerful, sophisticated, healthy, influential, all the other equities that you could possibly want out of your life, using the only stuff there is and not trying to change any of this stuff. Appreciate all of this stuff with all of its ups and downs, with all of its mystery of why it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Don't challenge this. You don't have to ask for another planet. You don't have to ask for another country. Just ask for another book. Ask for another seminar. Ask for another idea. And you can start this whole process of personal life change. Now, I could spend the whole day on philosophy, because that's where it is. If I could get you intrigued with that enough to study it, enough to ponder it, to where you would pick up the commitment like I did and say, hey, as simple as an apple a day, as simple as a walk around the block, why not start right there? If you don't start there, where else are you going to start? Might as well start where it's easy, and then go to the more complicated disciplines. Because if you can't handle the simple disciplines, how can you handle the complicated ones? Okay.
Key. Big Kamehameha waves in the building. Now, like Jim Rohn said, the formula for failure is a few errors in judgment made every day, consistently over a particular span of time. For example, a month. And that right there, consistently making errors in judgment for a month, will certainly lead you on the path to doing that for 3 months, doing that for 6 months, doing it for a year, until you have made lapses in judgment for 6 years' time, being where you don't want to be, doing what you don't want to do, wearing what you don't want to wear, right? And so I've seen this, not to those extents, right? But back in 2018, your boy was looking pretty official. I I say my physique was like at like an all-time best for me. You know, so during this time span between 2018 and 2021, I basically began to let my judgment lapse. I started missing workouts, and I figured if I just stick to my diet, then I'd be cool. And as far as my diet goes, I've been a pescatarian since 2013. You know, I figured that if I could make that change in my diet like 5 years prior, then I would have the inner strength to continue to keep my diet, which I have, and to also maintain my physique and my weight at the same time, as if I would just have that by default. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. I got fat.
Look at this dude.
I got fat. So, come the start of 2022, that's when things turned around. I almost said that's when things turned around for me. No, that's when I turned things around for me. Right? I put this idea into practice. That the formula for success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day, continuously. I experienced this being true too, right? Here in 2022, I've had a lot of time to myself, to really focus on myself and figuring out what I'm doing and not doing in my life that I should be implementing more or less of, right? To basically cut out what is no longer serving my highest good, right? And so, you know, I started to hack at the excess. Now, the first thing that I did the first thing that I attacked was it was my fitness, because that was the easiest thing that I could see, and it was the thing that was making me most mad, right? It was making me the most unsatisfied, right? So I started out with a simple 20-minute a day commitment to fitness. Exercise for at least 20 minutes, right? Jump rope for 20 minutes. You can do that. You can do that. I told myself you can do that, right? Before, you never wanted to do it. You always come up with some type of mental dialogue to cause a barrier to getting in the way. And I said, no more of that. We're going to change this part of my life, if nothing else, right? So I made the 20-minute commitment. I started to keep that every day, right? To either just jump rope or ride the fan bike, right? I started with 20 minutes a day. Then eventually that became easy. And so I made it a 25-minute a day commitment, right? Then I started to add an ab circuit to that. Then it became a 30-minute a day commitment, as I just kept at it, meeting it every day, not seeing results. That's the hardest part, is to do something and even be increasing how much you're doing it and still not really be seeing results, right? But just keeping at it regardless, because I will cut through this layer of resistance from the universe. Sometimes you just have to pass those tests, right? So it became a 30-minute a day commitment. Then I added in a 3-part exercise routine that I call an MX, the X being the number that you can fit in there, right? So how it goes is mountain climbers, burpees, jumping jacks. Do each exercise for reps of 10 in a cycle. I'll usually split up each one with a little bit of jump roping, you know, just so I don't super gas myself and make it harder than I would enjoy it to be, right? So I started to do those. And in the beginning of when I was at the 30-minute a day commitment, I could only get about an M30. That means I did what's on my fingers? I did the mountain climbers, burpees, and the jumping jacks in reps of 10 3 times. So it ends up being 30 for each exercise. Okay. Then I kept that. I kept the ab circuit in there and added in these MX exercises, right? Kept at it consistently, and increasing the time until where I am now at a 45-minute a day commitment. So every day I commit at least 45 minutes to my fitness, and it ends up being over an hour each time I do it, because I pause the timer for my asserted workouts when I do my abs, right? And at this point now, I'm regularly hitting M100s, where I'm getting through the 10 mountain climbers, 10 burpees, 10 jumping jacks over and over again in a cycle until I hit 100. And during my penultimate workout, like the one before my last one, I had hit a M140, which, compare that to when I first started, couldn't get past the M30 without feeling like it was over for your boy, you know? So, and even with my last workout, I began to incorporate a new regimen so I could switch between the MX workouts with this new routine that I've created for my samurai build, my IRL, in real life samurai build, which I can throw some clips in of. But by consistently attending to my fitness every day for the past 4 months, I went from weighing, like, averaging around like 195 was how much I was weighing, to now I'm waking up at about 172, 173, right? And then after a workout, I'm about 170 point something pounds usually, right? I'm back at my high school wrestling weight. I could go weigh in for a wrestling meet and compete at my high school weight without having to do some crazy like weight cut, like how I would have to do back in high school. So I'm in even better shape than I was in high school, you know? And so that right there is my real life testament that this works. Do something simple every day and then add to the complexity of it, and soon enough you'll be consistently doing more and more complex things, to the point where people will be asking you stuff like, how'd you do that? You know, it started simple, right? And that's the best way to go about it. So, you know, my goal was to get down to my high school wrestling weight, 171, ideally to be below it. But now my new goal is to wake up around 160, around 160 pounds, so that if I were competing professionally in mixed martial arts, I would be able to compete at 155 in the lightweight division without too much hassle of having to cut weight. And, you know, now that I've reached one goal, I can't wait to hit this next one. And as I continue to smoke that goal, my next goal is to become a freaking millionaire. Man, you smell and pretty. The first rung on that ladder is to get to 100 grand. And so that's my next goal that I'm stacking onto it, right? And so with that, I don't really got too much more to say other than that discipline really is a key to unlocking the path to your personal freedom and your personal power. And that if you don't rein it in on yourself, life's gonna rein it in on you and make your life hell. And by hell, what I mean is that it'll be accompanied by much suffering or much unfulfilled desires. And we don't like that. Nope. Here on Wukong's World, we're all about attaining freedom, attaining personal, physical, mental, and spiritual freedom. And so, with that being said, if you like the video, go ahead and slash that like button in a flash, cousin. And I'll see you next time on Wukong's World. live in your world, dream in mine. Have a blessed day and continue to shine. See you next time.